Drinking alcohol, smoking, and drug use are harmful to health.
Olivia Marsh was no stranger to dead ends. As a freelance journalist for the Hinterland Post, a blog teetering on the edge of obscurity, she'd spent years chasing stories that barely registered a blip in the digital void. Cryptid sightings, small-town conspiracies, haunted bridges. Most were duds, recycled folklore dressed up as clickbait. But when she stumbled across a forum thread about the mysterious broadcasts of WKNX 98.3, something stirred in her gut. Not curiosity, not quite. It was sharper, hungrier, a rare thrill that felt like purpose. The thread was buried deep in a subreddit for paranormal enthusiasts, its title unassuming. Anyone know about the burned station in Coldwater, MN? The posts were vague, fragmented. Locals claimed an abandoned radio station, gutted by fire decades ago, still broadcasted on 98.3 FM, under the right conditions. Foggy nights, dead air, a radio tuned just so. The transmissions were garbled, sometimes music, sometimes voices. No one could agree on what was said, but the consensus was clear. Those who went looking for answers came back wrong, or didn't come back at all. Olivia's inbox was already bloated with rejections from editors. Her bank account, a grim reminder of her dwindling prospects. She needed a story that mattered, something raw and real, something that didn't feel like another desperate grab for clicks. This was it. She could feel it. Coldwater, Minnesota was a 6-hour drive from her cramped Minneapolis apartment. She packed light, a digital recorder, her phone, a notepad, and a thermos of coffee that would be cold by the time she arrived. The road stretched into the night, her ancient Corolla rattling over frost-heaved asphalt. The radio hissed static, and she turned it off, unsettled by the way the white noise seemed to pulse in time with her heartbeat. Coldwater was a speck of a town, the kind where Main Street was a single stoplight and a diner that hadn't changed its menu since the Reagan era. She checked into the only motel, a sagging building called the Pineview, where the clerk, a wiry man with a smoker's cough, barely looked up from his crossword. "You here for the fishing?" he asked, sliding her a key. "No," Olivia said, hesitating. "Research. Old radio station." His pen froze mid-word. He looked at her, eyes narrowing under bushy brows. "Don't go poking around WKNX. Nothing good comes of it." "Why's that?" she asked, keeping her tone light, journalistic. He didn't answer, just pushed the key across the counter and turned back to his puzzle. "Checkout's at 10. The locals were no more forthcoming. At the diner the next morning, her questions about the station were met with tight smiles and subject changes. A farmer in overalls muttered about bad ground before clamming up. A waitress, her name tag reading Doris, spilled coffee when Olivia mentioned 98.3, then hurried to the kitchen without a word. Only the sheriff, a gaunt man named Hargrove, gave her anything resembling a warning. He caught her outside the library, where she'd been combing through microfiche for records of the fire. "You're the reporter asking about the station," he said, not a question. His eyes were pale, almost translucent, like ice over a frozen lake. "It burned for a reason. Leave it buried." "What happened out there?" Olivia pressed, her recorder already in hand. Hargrove's jaw tightened. "People died. That's all you need to know. Stay away." His voice was hollow, like he was reciting something he didn't fully believe. He turned and walked off, his boots crunching on the gravel lot, leaving Olivia with a chill that had nothing to do with the October air. She didn't listen. She couldn't. The story was a hook in her skin, pulling her toward the truth. That night, she drove to the edge of town, where County Road 17 petered out into a dirt track. The station sat a mile off the main road, hidden in a thicket of pines. Her headlights caught the skeletal remains of a chain-link fence, rusted and sagging. Beyond it, the blackened husk of WKNX loomed against the fog, its brick walls charred but standing, windows shattered like broken teeth. Olivia parked and checked her gear: recorder, phone, flashlight. The batteries were fresh, but the flashlight flickered when she tested it, a stuttering pulse that made her stomach twist. She stepped out into the night, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and something sharper. Scorched metal, maybe, or something alive and wrong. The fog curled around her ankles, thick and clinging, swallowing the sound of her footsteps. The station's door was gone, leaving a gaping maw into darkness. She clicked on her recorder, whispering her name and the date, October 27th, 2025, before stepping inside. The air changed immediately, warm and oppressive, like a room where someone had been breathing too long. Dust coated the floor, undisturbed except for faint scuff marks that might have been footprints. Her flashlight beam danced over broken chairs, a collapsed desk, and a wall of warped vinyl records, their labels illegible under layers of soot. Time felt wrong here. Not slow, not fast, but sideways, like she'd stepped into a place that didn't obey the rules of hours or minutes. Her watch, an old analog she'd inherited from her father, ticked erratically, the second hand jerking backward before lurching forward again. She shook her wrist, but it didn't stop. In the heart of the station, she found the broadcast booth. A rusted on-air sign hung above the door, its neon inexplicably flickering, casting a faint red glow. Inside, the console was a relic, dials and switches caked in grime, a microphone stand bolted to the desk. The mic itself was old, bulbous, the kind used in the golden age of radio. It looked untouched by the fire, polished almost, as if someone had been here recently. Olivia set her recorder on the desk, her hands trembling. She didn't believe in ghosts, not really, but the weight of the place pressed against her chest, making it hard to breathe. She was about to speak into the recorder when it happened. The broadcast began. "Welcome back, Olivia. We've been waiting for your voice." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, low, resonant, neither male nor female, but unmistakably directed at her. It wasn't on the console's speakers or her recorder. It was in the air, in her bones. Her flashlight flickered out, plunging the booth into darkness, except for the pulsing red of the on-air sign. She froze, her breath catching. "Who's there?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. No answer came, but the silence was worse. Thick, expectant, like the room was holding its breath. She fumbled for her phone, but the screen was black, unresponsive, despite a full charge an hour ago. The console hummed to life. Dials turned on their own, needles twitching, lights blinking in patterns that made no sense. The microphone swiveled toward her, slow and deliberate, like a head turning to stare. Olivia stumbled back, her hip hitting the desk, knocking her recorder to the floor. It didn't break, but it started recording on its own, a faint click signaling it was capturing something. "Say what you see, Olivia," the voice said again, closer now, as if it were standing just behind her. "It's your turn now." Her mouth opened, and words came out, words she didn't choose. The room is small, scorched vinyl on the walls, the smell of ash and something sweeter, like rotting flowers. The console is alive, lights blinking, dials moving. There's a pressure in the air, like eyes watching from the dark, dozens of them, waiting. She clapped a hand over her mouth, horrified. The words weren't hers, but they kept coming, spilling out in a steady stream. She described the booth in vivid detail, the cracks in the ceiling, the faint hum of static, the way the shadows seemed to pulse at the edges of her vision. Her voice cracked, tears streaming down her face, but she couldn't stop. It was like something else was speaking through her, using her as a conduit. Outside, anyone in Coldwater tuning to 98.3 FM heard her voice, trembling and raw, describing things no one could see. At the diner, Doris dropped a plate, her hands shaking as Olivia's sobs filled the airwaves. In the Pineview Motel, the clerk ripped the plug from his radio, but the broadcast didn't stop. Cars on County Road 17 swerved as drivers heard a woman's voice, panicked and pleading, describing a place that didn't exist. Inside the station, Olivia fought to stop talking. She bit her tongue until she tasted blood, but the words kept coming, faster now, describing things she couldn't possibly know. A fire that burned without heat, voices trapped in the walls, a signal that never stopped broadcasting. The booth began to change around her. The walls shimmered, like heat rising off asphalt, and the air grew hotter, thicker. The on-air sign burned brighter, its red light bleeding into her vision. She grabbed the recorder, desperate to destroy it. She smashed it against the desk, but it didn't break. She tried to snap the tape inside, but it held firm, unyielding. She hurled it at the wall, and it landed with a dull thud, still recording, still capturing her voice as it poured out against her will. The mic moved again, closer, its grill inches from her lips. "Keep going, Olivia," the voice said, now inside her head, a low hum that vibrated in her skull. "Tell them everything," she screamed, a raw, guttural sound that tore through the booth. The walls pulsed, the shadows stretching into shapes, hands, faces, things that weren't human. Her flashlight flickered back on, its beam catching glimpses of movement in the corners. A figure with too many limbs, a face with no eyes, a hand reaching from the wall. She stumbled toward the door, but it was gone, replaced by a smooth expanse of blackened brick. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, startling her. She pulled it out, the screen now glowing faintly. A single text message waited. "You're live now, Olivia. Don't stop." She threw the phone, and it shattered against the console, but the broadcast didn't falter. Her voice was everywhere, echoing through the station, through the fog outside, through every radio tuned to 98.3. She clawed at her throat, trying to silence herself, but the words kept coming, describing the figures now circling her, their shapes indistinct but growing closer. The booth was no longer a booth. It was larger, endless, a cavern of shadows and red light. The console was a monolith, its dials spinning wildly, its lights blinding. The mic was a mouth, open and hungry, and Olivia felt herself being pulled toward it, her feet sliding across the floor despite her resistance. She remembered the sheriff's warning, the clerk's fear, the locals' silence. They knew. They'd always known. The station wasn't just a ruin, it was a trap, a thing that fed on voices, on stories, on truth. And she'd walked right into it. Her screams reached a crescendo, broadcast to every radio in Coldwater, to cars on distant highways, to homes where people woke in the night, chilled by a voice they didn't recognize. Then, abruptly, the broadcast stopped. The station went silent. The on-air sign flickered out. Morning came, gray and heavy with fog. Sheriff Hargrove found Olivia's car parked near the station, its driver's door open, keys still in the ignition. Her recorder lay on the passenger seat, undamaged, its tape still running. He didn't listen to it. He didn't need to. The station was empty, its walls cold and lifeless, the console dark. No footprints, no signs of struggle, just dust and silence. Olivia Marsh was gone, like the others before her. In Coldwater, radios stayed off for weeks, but on foggy nights, when the air was thick and the stars were hidden, some claimed they could still hear her on 98.3. Her voice, trembling and eternal, describing things no one could bear to imagine.